Hello and welcome back to Wireman's Whimsy. Today we are going to make this card using the Daffodil Daydream set with a greeting from the Special Moments stamp set. The idea of stamping the greeting all over the background came from a post from Slim and Stylish that I saw on Instagram. And I've adapted it for this card. The technique that I actually want to talk to you about today, though, is the mirror stamping or reversing of a stamp. In the Daffodil Daydream one, we've got this stamp set, or this stamp and this stamp. But what I wanted was this stamp the other way around. So I used my silicone sheet, and I will demonstrate how I did that. And we can start. This is a silicone sheet. You can use it as a craft mat. You can use glue on it, your paste, anything, and it'll just peel right off. But what you want to do if you're doing a mirror stamp is you grab your stamp, and I've used basic gray. Now you need to be really careful when you're coloring with your Stampin' Blends when you use the water-based dye ink stamps, because they can get muddy and they can smear and that. So you want to be careful how much ink you put on. If you're going to be doing a lot of coloring and put a lot of ink on, you might want to use your black Memento ink. So what I've got is my ink pad, my stamp, my silicone craft sheet, and the piece of paper that I want the image to be on. So because I'm cutting this out, I've got a bit more freedom. So I'm going to make sure I've inked up this stamp really, really, really well. And you need to be a little bit quick with it so that the ink doesn't dry out. So you just stamp down on your craft mat like that. And then you're going to drop your piece of paper down. Careful not to smear it around. And then you're going to lift it up. And what you get is your reverse image. So the issue that we have now is that we want to cut this out, but the image is the other way around. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to cut it out from behind, which means you need to have a light source below you. So I'm going to disappear off camera for a little bit because my light is over top. But I know that I want to line up my stamp or my die on the back so that it matches my stamp. And when you shine it up to the light, you can see right through and you can line it up. So I have it lined up. So I'm going to put a couple of sticky notes on just to hold it in place. And I apologize that you can't see this on the screen, but I've held it up to the light so that I can see through, so that I can die cut from the back. So I'm going to run this through, and I haven't colored it yet. Two reasons. If it doesn't work, I can do it again, and I haven't invested a lot of time. The other thing is I want the ink to dry a little bit before I start coloring on it. So usually I color before I die cut, and in this case I'm going to die cut and then color. So let's take this away. Big reveal. Let's see how we did. And not too bad. I've got a little bit more greenery here, but that's going to tuck in underneath. So that's all good. And I literally did it by holding it up to the light so that I could see through. All right, so I'm going to work on coloring this in. And I'm just going to pull out the other one that I have already colored in, just so I've got a basis for comparison. And I'm actually going to start with my dark Daffodil Delight because I'm going to color in the edges here and then around the base. And then I'm coming in from areas where there's no ink to areas of ink, just so that I minimize the impact of the ink on the water-based dye. So I'm just going to start pulling this out so it blends. And so sorry, this bit, if you want to fast forward the video to get to where I'm actually constructing the card, that's fine, because the coloring in always takes me a little bit of time. So I'm also kind of dabbing down rather than dragging, just so that I don't pull that the ink everywhere. So this is my light Granny Apple Green. And I just want to differentiate the leaves. So I'm just doing some light Granny Apple Green and some dark Granny Apple Green just to give it a bit of depth of color. And we're here. So we just keep using our blends. If you've got the Stampin' Write markers, then you can absolutely use your Stampin' Write markers as well. So I'm coming in with the dark now, and just lightly so that I don't smear it everywhere. There we go. It is easier to color in before you die cut, because then you got somewhere to hold on to the page. But like I say, I did it this way so that the gray would have just that little bit of extra time to dry. So what you have now is 2 mirror images, colored a little differently, but we've used the technique to flip using our craft mat and then pick up the ink off the craft mat with our piece of paper. The image comes up just that little bit lighter, but as you can see, you can't really tell a difference right now. So the piece that I've taken from the Slim and Stylish post is using your greeting to create your background. So I've got the Thanks for Brightening Up My Day from the Special Moments set, and I am just going to stamp it in rows on the background. And I'm going to offset it a little bit. Sometimes it's going to be centered here. Sometimes it's going to be centered every second row, just to kind of, oops. And that's going to be covered up with flowers, so we're okay. But again, you need to make sure that your stamp is inked up correctly. And it was funny, as soon as I put it down, because it's the photopolymer, I realized that I didn't have enough ink on it. So the advantage of adding pieces in front of your background stamps. So paper has 2 sides, so if it had been very impactful, I would have just turned the paper over. I'm just going to tap into the top corner here a little bit because I feel like it's a little bit empty up there. So we're done with the stamping. I have pre-stamped the greeting and cut it out with the Everyday Label punch so that I can just go ahead. And I took this and I used a sponge dauber and my Daffodil Delight ink and just inked it up just to make it that little bit brighter. I am using dimensionals on these, and I'm going to put the dimensionals on the back of the center one, but I am not going to peel them off just yet. So I'm just going to, I want to lay this down and then be able to place these ones and make sure that I can still layer everything up. And it's okay if they come off the edge a little bit, because we are matting this, or we are putting this onto a Daffodil Delight card base. I get so excited sometimes about what I'm going to do that I forget to tell you all the pieces that are involved. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to peel these off and stick this down because I know basically where I want it to go. And it's going to go like that. And that piece is just going to meet the card edge. Okay, so then I'm going to peel this one off and do the same thing. I'm going to drop this one down just a little bit. Not too much, but just a bit. Like that. And then I can peel these ones off and stick them down. Just bringing that in like that. So we've got more of a kind of a field of flowers. And then before, actually I can put this on now at 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, whether I finish the card front or I mount it first. So I'm just going to line this up, drop that down like that. You can add ribbon to this. You can add basic jewels or some opal rounds that you've colored with the Daffodil Delight. You can do whatever you like if you want to bling it up. I kind of liked it with the greeting fairly full of white space and quiet because of the amount of detail in the background. So there we go. We have got our Thanks for Brightening Up My Day card using the Daffodil Daydream stamp pad with the greeting from Special Moments, using a background technique from Slim and Stylish on Instagram, and then using the reverse stamping, mirror image stamping idea for the second daffodil. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I've inspired you to try doing the mirror stamping yourself. Let's create together again soon.